Tonight, Vice President Harris reminding voters of a Trump presidency as he once again denies losing the 2020 election. The two candidates took the stage tonight in what could be the only presidential debate before the election in November. Good evening, everyone. I'm Maurice Dubois.
And I'm Christine Johnson. This was the first time the two candidates have met, and the stakes were high as they tried to sway voters with less than 2 months to go until Election Day.
And we have a live look now. The National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, the debate revealing two different versions of America's future. Tonight, it appeared Harris had Trump on the defensive for a lot of it. Trump trying to come back in many instances, but that's the way it went for most of the night.
It sure did. And political reporter Marcia Kramer is here now and has more now on tonight's performances. It was an interesting night. Not a lot of talk about specific policy, though.
No, there wasn't a lot of specific policy, but the one thing that you can say about this debate, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris gave Americans two different versions and two different stark choices. And I think that you can tell from both watching the debate that there were two very different people that you saw on the stage tonight. Donald Trump talking a lot about migrants and about his belief that a lot of them were criminals, and the Vice President talking about the importance of establishing an opportunity economy, an economy that would help underprivileged, help families, and she would give tax credits to other people.
Some really interesting moments there. I mean, she got him talking about immigration and then got him into dogs and cats. So I guess we can get into that.
Well, you're going to hear about the dogs and cats in my piece.
Right, and we can do that right now, right?
We hope so.
Let's take a look.
Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
It started with an awkward handshake, and that may have been the high point as Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump wrestled and grappled for the votes of the American people. One of the most telling exchanges about Trump's rallies.
He talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them.
There are many exchanges about migrants, Trump charging they are mostly criminals and terrorists. And then this.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Harris couldn't help but laugh. Moderator David Muir corrected the record.
And ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed.
You talk about extreme.
Both claim to be the saviors of the economy.
She doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like run, spot, run.
Under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military.
The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America.
They also tangled about abortion. Trump defended appointment of conservative judges to the Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade.
You should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
answer the question, would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth.
The majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body.
Harris goaded Trump about claiming he won the 2020 election when in fact he lost.
It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact.
We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man, and you know what, I'll give you a little secret, he hates her. He can't stand her.
Now, as I said, they both offered very different visions. Kamala Harris talking about focusing on the future and creating an opportunity economy. Trump criticizing the Biden administration and foreign policy failures that he said could lead to a third world war.
So, Marcia, in your opinion, was anything accomplished tonight on either side?
Well, I think that they both tried to address the voters that they think that they need to do in the battleground states. I think the one thing that Kamala Harris did was define herself and talk about policies that she would support. And a lot of people going into this debate wanted to know what she stood for, and she gave them plenty of that.
She sure did. Then what about defining moments tonight? We've already talked about dogs and cats. There were moments when she told him that Putin would eat his lunch. What about defining moments as you saw it?
Well, I thought the dog and cats was a defining moment, but the reason was that the anchor had to actually step in and correct the record. So to me, that was the defining moment. But I also think that when she also fought back, and she told him to stop lying about guns. He kept telling people that she would take away their guns if she got elected. She said that she and the vice president are both gun owners, and they're not going to take away anybody's guns. That, I think, was a defining moment as well.
Okay.
All right, and we don't know whether or not if we're going to see another debate, so this could be the only one for the presidential candidates.
It could be, yeah.
We need some time to process this one, shall we say?
We do.
Let's go with that. Marcia, thank you for the insight. We, of course, will have much more for you on tonight's debate on our website, cbsnewyork.com.